Chera carried a clay pot to the village stream to fetch water. It was her escape from the harshness of Neka's home. She enjoyed the quiet sound of the flowing water and the cool breeze that danced through the trees. Her only companion was her dog, Toby, who followed her everywhere. As she knelt by the river bank, filling the pot, Toby began barking furiously. She turned to see him tugging at something in the shallow water. "Toby, what is it?" she asked, setting the pot aside. When she walked closer, she saw something that made her gasp. A small figure lying limp in the water. At first, she thought it was a child, but as she leaned closer, she noticed the shimmering scale of a fish tail. It was a young mermaid, her body covered in wounds and her breathing shallow. Chera hesitated for a moment, her heart racing. She had heard stories about mermaids from the elders. Some said they were dangerous, while others claimed they were kind and magical. But looking at the creature before her, all Chera saw was someone in need. "It's okay," she whispered, gently lifting the mermaid out of the water. The creature's skin was cold, and her eyes fluttered weakly. "You're hurt, but I'll help you." She remembered the herbal remedies her mother used to make, and quickly gathered some leaves from the nearby bushes. Crushing them with a stone, she applied the paste to the mermaid's wound. And the mermaid didn't resist. Her large, silvery edge stared at Chera with a mixture of fear and gratitude. "You'll be okay," Chera assured her, stroking the mermaid's damp hair. As she walked, the air around them grew strangely still. Suddenly, the river began to ripple, and a radiant figure emerged from the water. It was a majestic mermaid with a golden tail and a crown of pearls. Clearly, the queen of the river. "Who dares to touch my daughter?" the queen demanded, her voice echoing like a thunder. Chera froze, feeling gripping her heart. I was only helping her," she stammered, bowing her head down. "She was hurt, and I couldn't leave her to die." The queen's stern expression softened as she looked at her injured daughter. "You showed kindness when others might run away," the queen said. For that, I'm grateful." The young mermaid, now slightly stronger, spoke in a soft voice. "She served me, mother. Please, don't be angry with her." The queen nodded and turned back to Chera. "You've done a noble thing, child. We don't forget such acts. You've done a noble thing, child. We don't forget such acts. If ever you are in need, call upon us and we shall come to your aid." Before Chera could respond, the queen waved her hand and a young mermaid vanished into the water. Chijioke and Amaka lived a simple and happy life in a small, peaceful village. They were deeply in love, and their home was filled with laughter and dreams for the future. Amaka was a gentle and kind woman, admired by everyone in the village for her calm nature and warm heart. Chijioke, on the other hand, was a hardworking and charming, always making promises to take care of her. Their love seemed unbreakable, and soon Amaka became pregnant with their first child. Joy overflowed in their home, and they prepared to welcome a new member of their family. However, Chijioke carried a dark secret unknown to Amaka. He had been seeing another woman named Neka. Neka too was pregnant with his child. Unlike Amaka, Neka was proud, determined to secure a place in Chijioke's life. She had no intention of being hidden away or treated as a secret. As her pregnancy processed, Neka began pressurizing Chijioke to do the unthinkable, bringing her into his home as a second wife. One fateful day, Chijioke made his decision without a warning. He brought Nneka to their home and announced to Amaka, "This is Nneka, she's also my wife." Nneka's heart broke into a million pieces. Tears streamed down her face as she struggled to understand how a man she loved could betray her in such a way. "How could you do this to me, Chijioke? I trusted you," she cried, but Chijioke was unmoved. He justified his action by saying, "I have enough love for both of you. Nneka's child is mine too, and I'll take the responsibility." Amaka felt trapped. Divorce was not an option in their culture, and leaving would mean abandoning her unborn child. Though her heart was heavy, she stayed, hoping that things would somehow get better. But the house, once filled with love, now became a battlefield. The tension between Amaka and Nneka was unbearable, and their constant arguments began to poison the air in the home. What had been a happy beginning was now a bitter and a chaos life. Living under the same roof became a nightmare for Amaka. Nneka, full of pride and arrogancy, did everything to make Amaka feel inferior. She claimed to be more important because she was carrying Chijioke's child, just as Amaka was. Every day brought a new argument, and their fights became louder and more bitter each passing day. Chijioke, instead of taking responsibilities for the chaos he had created, often left the house to avoid the tension. "You two need to learn to live together," he would say, but his words carried no weight. Amaka felt betrayed and abandoned by the man she had once trusted with her whole heart. She often cried herself to sleep, wondering how her once a loving husband had turned into a stranger. Nneka made no effort to hide her disdain for Amaka. She would insult her cooking, complain about the housework, and even mock her appearance. "You are nothing but an old-tired woman," Nneka sneered one evening. "Chijioke only keeps you here out of pity." Amaka bit her tongue, trying to keep the peace, but the insults cut deep. She prayed for strength and patience, hoping that the birth of her child would bring some joy back into her life. Despite their constant arguments, both women were focused on their pregnancies. Amaka took great care of herself, determined to have an healthy baby. She often spent time alone in the backyard, talking to her unborn baby and promising to love and protect it no matter what. As months passed, the atmosphere in the house grew even more toxic. The two women barely spoke to each other. They always argued, and Chijioke did nothing about it. The once a happy home had become a place of constant tension and bitterness. One day, as Amaka sat outside peeling yams, she overheard Nneka talking to a neighbor. "I'm the real wife here," Nneka boasted loudly. "Amaka is just a placeholder. Once I give birth to Chijioke's son, she will see who truly matters." Amaka clenched her fist, tears welling up in her eyes. She knew Nneka was trying to provoke her, but the words still hurt. "God sees everything," Amaka whispered to herself. "One day, he will judge us all." Little did they know, the battles were only the beginning. The birth of their children would change everything in a way they could ever imagined. The day Amaka went into labor was both joyful and tense. Her cries echoed through the house as the midwife worked tirelessly to deliver her baby. Nneka, instead of offering support, sat in her living room bragging, "Why should I care? She thinks her child is more important than mine," Nneka muttered to herself. After hours of pain, Amaka gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. The midwife handed her the baby, and tears of joy streamed down Amaka's face. "Her name will be Chera," she whispered, candling her baby. "She will be a blessing to this family." Chijioke, hearing the news, came to see the baby. Though he smiled at his daughter, disappointed flickered in his eyes. He had hoped for a son. "She's beautiful," he said flatly before leaving the room. Amaka's heart sank. She knew Chijioke loved less because she didn't give him the baby boy she desperately wanted. Meanwhile, Neka grew more bitter. "A girl? That's all she could give him," she sneered. "Just wait, I give birth to a son. Then we'll see who Chijioke truly loves." Neka's moment came not long after. She too went into labor, and the house was once again filled with the sound of a woman's scream. Unlike Amaka, Neka demanded everyone's attention, including Chijioke's. "Stay by my side," she ordered him. "This is your heir I'm bringing into the world." After several hours, Neka gave birth to a son. She named him Obina, and Chijioke's joy was unmistakable. He carried the baby, proudly showing off to the neighbors and declaring, "This is my son, my firstborn son." Amaka watched from a distance, holding a little Chera in her arms. Her heart inched as she saw the difference in how Chijioke treated Neka's child. "Does my daughter mean little to him?" she wondered. The birth of Obina deepened the divide between two women. Neka felt triumphant over her son at every moment. "You see," she said to Amaka one evening, "I've given Chijioke what you couldn't. I'm the real wife now." Amaka stayed silent, refusing to engage in the argument. She focused on caring for Chera, pouring all her love into her daughter. As the years passed, the fights between Amaka and Neka showed no sign of ending. Their fights became more frequent, and the children were caught in the middle. Chera and Obina grew up in a home filled with shouting and resentment. Chera, though young, was quiet and observant. She often hid in corners, clutching her doll, as her mother and her stepmother urged. Obina, on the other hand, was bored, often repeating harsh words he heard from her mother, Neka. "Your mother is weak," Obina said to Chera one day, echoing his mother's words. "My mother said she will take over this house soon." Chera didn't reply. She simply hugged her doll tightly and walked away. The constant fighting took its toll on the family. Chijioke, frustrated and tired, began to spend more time away from home. "I can't deal with this madness any longer," he often said before leaving for a day. But the worst was yet to come. Chijioke's desire for a son drove him to make another fateful decision, one that would change the family forever. Years passed, but Chijioke's dissatisfaction with his family only grew. Though he had Obina, he longed for another son to secure his legacy. His obsession consumed him, and he pressurized Amaka to have another child. "You must give me a son," he demanded one evening. "Obina cannot be my only heir." Amaka, weary for years of emotion pain, reluctantly agreed. She hoped that another child might bring peace to the fractured home. But Neka, overhearing their conversation, was furious. "So now you want to have another child with her?" she yelled at Chijioke. "Haven't I given you enough?" The house erupted into chaos again. Amaka retreated into her room, clutching Chera tightly. "Don't worry, my child," she whispered. "No matter what happens, I'll protect you." Months later, Amaka became pregnant. The news reignited the tension in the household. Neka grew jealous, fearing that another child might shift Chijioke's attention away from her. She began plotting ways to ensure that she and Obina remained the center of Chijioke's world. Amaka's pregnancy was difficult. She often felt weak and dizzy, but she pushed through, determined to give Chijioke the son he desired. One fateful evening, As she was preparing dinner, Chijioke came home in a full mood. "We are going to the city hospital," he announced. "I don't trust the midwives here. You give birth where it's safe." Amaka, though hesitant, agreed. She didn't want to argue with him, especially in her fragile state. Chera, sensing something was wrong, clenched her mother's dress. "Mama, don't go," she pleaded. "It's okay, my love," Amaka said softly, stroking Chera's hair. "I'll be back soon." As Chijioke drove Amaka to the hospital, the rain began to pour heavily. The roads were slippery and visibility was poor. Chijioke, impatiently and distracted, drove faster than he should have. Amaka begged him to slow down. "Please, Chijioke, think of the baby," she cried. But before he could respond, the car skipped off the road and crashed into the tree. The impact was devastating. Amaka and Chijioke died instantly, leaving their unborn child fate unknown. News of the accident spread through quickly in the village. Chera, now orphan, was just 6 years old, was left in the care of Neka. The stepmother's hatred for Amaka extended to her daughter. She made no effort to hide it. "You are just like your mother," Neka sneered one day as Chera timidly approached her, useless and unwanted. Chera endured endless mistreatment. She was given the hardest chores, fed scraps, and often left to sleep on the cold floor. Obina, taking after his mother, joined in the cruelty. "Why don't you run away?" he mocked. "Nobody wants you here." But Chera stayed strong. She often found comfort in small things, like her mother's old scarf, the memory of her gentle voice, and the quiet moments by the river where she could escape her pain. It was during one of these visits to the river that Chera's life would change forever. One afternoon, Chera carried a clay pot to the village stream to fetch water. It was her escape from the harshness of Neka's home. She enjoyed the quiet sound of the water and the cool breeze that danced through the trees. Her only companion was her dog, Toby, who followed her everywhere. As Chera knelt by the river, filling the pot, Toby began barking furiously. Startled, she turned to see tugging at something in the shower water. "Toby, what is it?" she asked, setting the pot aside. When she walked closer, she saw something that made her gasp, a small figure lying limp in the water. At first, she thought it was a child, but as she leaned closer, she noticed the shimmering scale of a fish tail. It was a young mermaid, her body covered in wounds, her breathing shallow. Chera hesitated for a moment, her heart racing. She had heard of stories about mermaids from the elders. Some said they were dangerous, while others claimed they were kind and magical. But looking at the creature before her, all Chera saw was someone in need. "It's okay," she whispered, gently lifting the mermaid out of water. The creature's skin was cold, and her eyes fluttered weakly. "You're hurt, but I'll help you." Chera carried a young mermaid to a shaded spot by the river bank. She remembered herbs remedies her mother used to make, and quickly gathered some leaves from the nearby bushes, crushing them with a stone and applied the paste to the mermaid's wound. The mermaid didn't resist. Her light silvery eyes stared at Chera with a mixture of fear and gratitude. "You'll be okay," Chera assured her. As she walked, the air around them grew strangely still. Suddenly, the river began to ripple, and a radiant figure emerged from the water. It was a majestic mermaid with a golden tail and a brown crown of pearls, clearly the queen of the river. "Who dares to touch my daughter?" the queen demanded, her voice echoing like a thunder. Chera froze, fear gripping in her heart. I was only helping her," she stammered, bowing her head. "She was hurt. I couldn't leave her to die." The queen's stern expression softened as she looked at her injured daughter. "You showed kindness when others needed, how others might have run away, but you didn't," the queen said. "For that, I'm grateful." The young mermaid, now slightly stronger, spoke in soft voice. "She served me, mother. Please, don't be angry with her." The queen mother nodded and turned back to Chera. "You've done a noble thing, child. We don't forget such acts. If you're ever in need, call upon us and we shall come to your aid." Before Chera could respond, the queen waved her hand and the young mermaid vanished into the water. The queen lingered for a moment, her gaze piercing yet kind. "Remember, little one," she said, "kindness is never wasted." With that, she disappeared into the river, leaving Chera alone and Toby. Chera stood there, her heart pounding. She didn't fully understand what just happened, but she knew her life would never be the same. After her encounter at the river, Chera returned home with a clay pot full of water and her mind full of questions. She wanted to tell someone about the mermaid, but who would trust her? Neka would laugh and call her a liar, and Obina would probably make it into another excuse to mock her. "Why are you so late?" Neka snapped the moment Chera stepped into the compound. "Do you think the chores will do themselves?" "I'm sorry, Mama," Chera said softly, setting the pot down. "Sorry won't clean the floor or wash the clothes," Neka yelled. "You useless, just like your mother." The words stung, but Chera didn't respond. She quietly picked the broom and began sweeping the dust yard. As she walked, Obina sat nearby, tossing stones at her feet. "Did you fall into the river?" she sneered. "You're so slow. Maybe next time Mama will send me instead." Chera ignored him, focusing on her task. She had learned long ago that reacting only made things worse. But deep inside, she wished for a way out of this mystery. Days turned into weeks and the mistreatment grew worse. Neka found new ways to humiliate Chera, often making her do chores late in the night or denying her food. "You are not my child," Neka would say. "I don't owe you anything." One evening, after a particular harsh beating for splinting a bowl of soup, Chera ran to the river. Tears streamed down her face as she sat on the riverbank, clutching her bruised arms. "Queen of the river," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You said I could call for help. Please, I need you." For a moment, there was only silence, and then water began to ripple, and a soft glow emerged from its depth. The queen of the river appeared with a golden tail shimmering in the moonlight. "Child," the queen said, her voice gentle yet powerful. Chera fell on her knees. "My stepmother hates me," she cried. "She beats me and makes my life unbearable. I don't know how much longer I can stay in that house." The queen's expression darkened. "You've endured much, little one. Your kindness to my daughter will not be forgotten. What do you want me to do?" Chera hesitated. She didn't want revenge. She just wanted peace. "I don't want to hurt anyone," she said. "I just want to be free." The queen nodded. "Very well. I'll give you the strength to endure. And when the time comes, I'll help you find your freedom. But remember, every choice comes with a price." Before Chera could ask what the queen meant, the figure vanished, leaving the river calm once more. The next morning, strange things started happening in the household. Neka woke up to find her favorite pot shattered on the kitchen floor, though no one had touched it. Obina tripped over a broom that seemed to move on its own. "What's going on in this house?" Neka yelled at Chera. "Are you doing something, you little witch?" "No, Mama," she said, her voice trembling. But deep inside, she felt a flicker of hope. Could the queen of the river be protecting her? Strange events in the house continued. Neka's food often burnt on the stove, no matter how careful she cooked. Obina's puzzled slide chute disappeared, only to reappear broken in the middle of the compound. Even the goats refused to enter their pen, bleating loudly whenever Neka approached. Neka became more irritable with each passing day. "There is something wrong here," she muttered to herself. "This house feels cursed." One evening, she called an elder from the village to inspect the house. The elder, an wizened man named Eze, walked around the compound, muttering prayers and splunking herbs. When he finished, he turned to Neka. "Your trouble are not normal," he said gravely. "There is a force at work, one that is protecting someone in this house." Neka's eyes narrowed. "Protecting who?" The elder looked at Chera, who stood quietly in the corner. "This child," he said, "he's under the protection of a powerful spirit." Neka's face twisted in anger. "That girl, she's nothing but trouble." "Be careful, Neka," the elder warned. "Harming her father will bring consequences. Spirits do not take kindly to ungrateful hearts." But Neka dismissed his words. "What does he know?" she muttered as the elder left. "This is my house. I do as I pleased." Neka's anger towards Chera only grew after the elder's visit. Determined to prove she was in control, she began to treat Chera even worse. She made her scrub the floor until her hands bled and carry heavy buckets of water for hours. One evening, Neka called Chera into the kitchen. "You think you're special, don't you?" she sneered. "Well, let's see how special you are after this." She handed Chera a small basket filled with the palm kernels. "Take this to the forest and crack every single one before you come back. If you turn before it's done, you'll regret it." Chera's heart sank. The forest was far, and it would take hours to crack all this kernel, but she had no choice. She took the basket and began her long journey. As she sat under the tree in the forest, tears filled her eyes. "Queen of the river," she whispered, "I don't know if I can do this." Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for reaching this far. This is part 1 of our story, and if you've liked it, please leave something in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Leave something in the comment section and give a thumb up to this video. Bye bye. See you in our next part.